Hello. Right, so today I am going to have a brief chat about the fact that I've had fish in this tank for 2 years this month. So June the 23rd, I think it was, if I check my spreadsheet, I put in the first 2 fish. So since it's June 2023, 2 years of having life in the tank. The tank got wet in April of 2021. Took about 3 months to cycle. Big tank, no rust. So I put in lots of bottle bacteria, and I just bought some ammonia online, sprinkled it in, let it cycle and do its thing. All dry rocks, D&D rock, no sand. 3 months later, put the first fish in. So those fish are still in here. They've done very well. They were, I'll show you in a minute. I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you the 2 fish. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was 2 years into having a kind of operational fish room. What would I change? What mistakes have I made? What have I learnt? So mistakes, I haven't really made nothing major, nothing I've gone, oh my God, that's going to be a nightmare. I'll show you the mistake I haven't actually told anyone, because it's just one of those annoying things, is when I did the plumbing for the tank. So the tank builder was in Liverpool. I'm just outside London in the UK, and I got the overflow box that I wanted to use from the States. So I don't know why, but the States still use all imperial measurements, inches and feet, and 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, 1/16 and all that. Whereas obviously Europe all use a metric system. So I was slightly obsessed with getting the holes drilled by the tank manufacturer in Liverpool in the right place. So Modular Marine, where I bought the overflow box from the States, they send a like a little Perspex template for the 2, I think they're 2-inch, which is about 50mm holes. Might be 3-inch, can't remember actually. They're quite big. So I wasn't particularly worried, because the template's fair enough. You put the template in the glass and you've got your centres, so you drill your holes. But what I was concerned about was the depth of these holes from the top of the tank, because the internal weir box had to be in the right place to not hit the lip of the tank, because the tank has got 10mm glass all around the top, like Euro brace, and the internal weir obviously sits above and below where those holes are drilled, and there's also like a little lid on it that ideally I'd like to be able to get off should I need to. So I was a bit obsessed with making sure that was all in the right orientation, that I could fit all of that in. So because I got obsessed with that, I got slightly sidetracked on the fact that the 2 returns that I wanted put onto the tank, I've got a 40mm return on either end. So the one at the far end, away from the weir, is perfect. But what happened is the one on the end of the tank where the weir box goes, is I didn't take into account the width of the internal weir box. So when I plumbed it all in, I was so obsessed with the height of the weir being in the right place, so the water level on the tank's good, because I want it obviously just above that, what is that, powder coated frame around the tank. So I didn't want it to be down here, obviously, because it looked rubbish. So I was really pleased with the way it all went. So all the levels were good. And then when I pushed the weir on, the internal weir box, I suddenly realised that it covered half of the 40mm return into the tank. So I was just like, shit. I mean, it hasn't had a big impact. I tried to kind of cut a pipe which had half a opening that I could put in, and it kind of went round the weir box and then came out. But it kept blowing off. Then I put zip ties on it and it just looked naff. So it's just a blind return at the moment that just feeds back into the tank, and it has to kind of work its way around the weir box. It's not really a big issue, to be honest. And the kind of way the tank works is most of the flow goes along the bottom that way, kind of up and then back across the top, so it hits the weirs at the top of the tank that end. That's kind of, so it's not a massive issue, but it's just one of the things, you get so obsessed with something that over there you don't even look at it until it's too late, by which time the tank was being drilled. So yeah, so that's probably the biggest mistake I made on planning a tank in terms of plumbing and that. I think the other thing that's caught me by surprise more than anything is I live in the UK, not generally known as a hot country, so I was quite obsessed with insulating this room for the winters. So I had two big windows in this, what was a garage, so I had a full window at that end, which was probably 2 meters across, and I had another window kind of just over to where I'm standing to my left. So I completely covered them in, insulated them. So I've got, I can't remember what I've got in now. I think I've got 100 mil Cellutex, which is like a really highly rated insulating, I don't know what you call it. It's like a foam, but like a solid foam. You buy it in sheets. So I did all the walls, I did all the apex roof up here, and then I covered it in 50 mil ply. Then I covered it in this PVC boarding. So it's very insulated. So what actually happens is it gets too hot. So even in the winter, I think my heaters come on periodically, maybe in January, February at night, if it drops below about -5. That seems to be about if it's above -5, just the volume of the water seems to be able to retain heat that it gets during the day. So yeah, thinking about it, I may have changed the way I vent the room, maybe, because it's very enclosed. I've got two, either end I've got two fans which vent out, but the access is, main access I use 99% of the time is down through the floor and out the back, and as obviously heat rises, this room where the tank is, it gets warm, very warm. So the cost of the aircon is more than I anticipated, and just the fact that it's on, and the fact that originally when I set the tank up and I did have all the lights on, I didn't need the aircon. It would sit around 25. Just but if I think about 6 radion lights, it's at about, it got up to 25 and then kind of stayed there pretty much. So obviously now I've got 19 lights on and just more pumps and just more kit in the room which puts out heat. I probably would have gone down the route of, I probably will actually, I think next year I will probably put in a proper aircon unit, you know, with the box outside with the fan on and then a unit inside, because even though that I've got an aircon unit down there, but it's a portable unit. I mean, it's a good unit, but they're very noisy and it's in the way really, because I want to be able to sit at that end of the tank, because that's the, you know, if I sit at that end of the tank, I can look down 13 foot of tank and it's a nice view and I like it. So my original idea was to put a seat there and sit there, but obviously because I've had to put an air conditioning unit in there to keep the room down to, it is 26 degrees. So the water's 26, the room's 26, but that cuts on and out, in and out constantly throughout the day. Yeah, so that's probably actually the biggest surprise, to be honest. I grossly underestimated just how warm this room would run, to be honest. Other annoying things are, I fitted, I think, I can't remember, I've got something like 60 double sockets in this room, so I've got 120 plug sockets and it's not enough. Technically it is enough, but they're not necessarily in the right places. So I put a load of double sockets on that side for the tank, so all the lights, all the MP6s, MP40s, all of that, the fridge under there, and I don't know what else, got some dosing pumps and stuff, they're all plugged into that side of the tank. But I do quarantine on this side of the room, and I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 double sockets. I've got 12 plug sockets on this side, And you know, the fact I've got like the Wi-Fi module plugged in, the fans at either end are plugged into them. I've got the Vectorel one plugged in, which circulates my salt in the bin there. I've got, you know, cameras plugged in, skimmers, Deltec calcium reactors, fans. Yeah, I just use so much stuff. And then obviously when I set the tanks up for the quarantine, and I've got to have an extra filter, an extra heater, and then because I do tank transfer, I've got 2 of everything. So the night before I might set the other tank up, which means I need double sockets for 24 hours. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's quite easy probably to fit extra sockets up there because the power is literally in a conduit, and you just drop down and put some more sockets in. But you know, after you've kind of done everything, it's a pain to go back and do it. So yeah, so that's probably, I mean, these are just niggling things. None of these are easy to live with. I mean, I've just put, like, literally above the phone where I'm talking to you, I've got a 8 plug extension lead, and then over there I've got another 8 plug extension lead. So I mean, they just look a bit naff, don't they, extension leads, really. So that's about it. I'll tell you what else I would have done. I would have tiled the floor. I hummed and hawed so much, and the reason I didn't do it was because 2/3 of the floor are concrete, and then the final third is timber, which I had to put in myself, because originally it was like a metal, sheet metal lift out grate things. Because originally this garage was used by a guy with a boat, and he used to back his boat in, and then that third where you can walk down, he used to work on like the prop of the engine and stuff like that. So yeah, so time I put all that flooring, I mean, it's 2 things really. One, it was transitioning from the concrete to the wood with the tiles and the adhesive and all that. And 2, I think I've spent so much money by the time I thought about tiling the floor, I was just like, I'll just 50 quid for a can of garage paint. But I'll show you in a minute, that paint does not like salt water put on it, really. Yeah, so that's it. So I can't think of anything major that I would change, really. If I had the money, I would go all solar panels, so I didn't have to pay for the electricity, but I can't have them because my roof is all strange shapes and angles, so I can't fit enough panels on to make it any good, really. Things I'm more than happy with, that have surprised me just how good they are, definitely by a long way, is the battery backup. The fact that just kicks in automatically, like within, I think it's 10 milliseconds or something. So when the power goes out, everything that's plugged into my battery backup, it just, well, it's like the power's not out, it just switches over absolutely seamlessly. So that's saved me a couple of times in the 2 years. I had a power surge which put all the house out, and I came out here absolutely perfect. I mean, the lights go off because they're not essential for keeping the tank going, but all of the skimmers, the heaters, a couple of MP60s, mainly all the returns as well, all of that just kept going perfectly. And then the second time, I mean, I have such rare event, a power cut where I live, really is rare. And then I had one when I was away, and I was like, the chances of that. So, you know, it has really been a godsend to have that fitted in. So it's 3 kilowatts. Every week what I do is when I do my water change, when I'm out here on a Monday basically, I do a water change, and I have a good, you know, clean out the pumps. I probably spend 3 or 4 hours out here doing like the main maintenance, even though I come out here every day. That's my main sort of day where I do the big stuff. And when I'm out here, I flick the power off to all the sockets that are powered, just to give the batteries a little workout, just to check everything's going, because it's very easy to fit something like that and just leave it thinking, oh, I've got that covered, it's good. And you know, 4 years down the line, when you absolutely need it, because you haven't checked it for ages, either the battery's dead or the auto switching doesn't work, or you know, So I do every week. I just flick it for about 3 hours, and fortunately it makes a noise, so I know it's on. Otherwise, I mean, I've walked out and forgot, to be honest. But generally, yeah, I just give it a little workout every once a week, just to check that it's all good. And I think I worked it out that it would run all of my main equipment for 24 hours. And if I knew, I mean, I've never ever, since I've been alive, to be honest, I've never had a 24-hour power cut, I don't think. Yeah, so I find it's a very rare event, but it really is peace of mind. So yeah, so that's probably the best thing. So that, and I mean, the Abyss return pumps are, you know, everything you want them to be, other than cheap. You know, you just plug them in, and those things, I think I've cleaned one of them twice, and the other one, I got two Abyss A200s. Yeah, I've cleaned one of them twice, and that's only because it had a snail on it, and I just heard it making that little noise. And I cleaned the other one once just because I wanted to see what it looked like and how dirty it was, and it had virtually nothing in there really, like a very thin slime coat on it, and that was it. So I mean, they are ridiculously expensive, but my reasoning in my head is they're going to outlast me, so I will not ever be buying any more return pumps unless something catastrophic happens, and then they're guaranteed for 10 years anyway. So, and I'm 2 years in, so I should be good for at least 8 years. And I think the chances of two of them breaking are pretty remote. And then just because I'm obsessed with redundancy, I've got a 400 pump as well, which technically I could swap out should both of those go down at the same time. And then if all three of them break, I've got a Deltec E-Flow, which has got the same size inlet and outlets, so I could swap that out as well. And then if that goes as well, I've got a Red Dragon, which I use in my mixing bin, which I could also use. So I've got a lot, so I never expect to have any problems with my return pumps. Right, so I think that is it in terms of the fish room. So I'll turn the camera around. I might turn the light out because I think you get less reflection in the tank. And I'll show you the first two fish that went in. I'll show you the cock up on the return. Can't really see it because it's obviously the cock up it's behind something else. And then I'm going to talk briefly, because it is June and schools will be breaking up for summer holidays soon, and some of us will be heading off to holiday either in the tropical climes or somewhere else. And so I thought I would have a look at the topic of sunscreen, particularly the oxybenzenes, which are supposedly killing our reefs when we go in snorkeling or diving or just swimming, or even just on the beach and showering, and the runoff from us goes in, killing the coral reefs. So I'm going to look at a paper which discusses some of those issues at the end of this, after I've done a little walkthrough of the tank, etc. So let me just turn the camera around, put my lens on, and show you the tank. Right, let's just turn the light off, see if it makes it less reflecty. Right, all these guys have been fed, so let that camera adjust. Right, so what am I looking for? I am looking for, it does amaze me, I've cleaned that glass, and then you just look at the amount of patches that I've missed. Right, so this guy here, the gem tang, was the first fish in, and he went in with, this guy's quite shy, this guy, that guy there, which is a get out of the way guys, come on, it's a mustard tang, see him there? Yeah, so just above that clam, yeah, so it's very mild mannered, that fish. yeah, so they were the first 2 fish to go in here. They were probably half the size they are now. Yeah, so they've been in there for be 2 years, or so, a couple of weeks, I think. Right, so if you look up there, that is one of my 40mm returns, which I reduced down to 32, just to get a bit of flow whipping across the top there. And so it comes up just like that and then goes in. So that one there, I can't remember what the measurements are from the top and the side, but this one down there is exactly the same. And I don't think I'm going to be able to show it to you, to be honest, but basically that weir box, if you look at this end, so if you imagine that is covering half of the return on that. So that was the mistake I made there, really, but it still works fine, so there's nothing really that bad about it, I suppose. It's just annoying, that was all. Yeah, so the other thing I was going to show you was the state of the floor. So if you look at these, just these patches that you get, especially by the sink, whereas obviously where I spill most of the water, it just peels off. So I need to repaint all the floor. So really, I should have tiled it, I guess, because probably long run it would be cheaper than keep painting it, because I think the paint, it's not cheap. There's some garage floor paint, which is, I think it's about £50 a tin or something. Right, that blue tang, powder blue tang now, eats my gonny there every now and then. Never do it when you've got a camera on them, do they? It's like their brief tells them behave. But yeah, I think it's very difficult to see, but on the heads of some of those polyps, there's just lumps missing. So I wonder what it was for ages. I kept looking at it going, I don't understand what is attacking it. And then I was just sitting there one day and my powder blue casually just did a sort of drive-by and just took a big mouthful of polyps off of the end. So, powder blues, not reef safe. And I've seen my regal tangs. I've actually forgotten what coral it is, but they pick up one of the, I'm sure it's one of the stony corals actually. Now initially I thought there was just some food stuck in it, or maybe a bit of algae or a bit of nori that had come off the clip and was stuck in it, but when I had a good look, no, they were just biting chunks out of it. But I can't remember what it was. It's obviously not bad because nothing's dead. So, but yeah, it's just surprising because you always think tangs are about as reef safe as you're going to get, really. But I seem to have at least 2 tangs in here that have a bit of a taste for coral. So, right, so that's it. So, fish have been in there for 2 years, livestock in the tank for 2 years. That's probably it for livestock. I mean, in terms of what's gone wrong in the tank, it's like what every single reefer gets. I've got aptasia in here after keeping it out for nearly 2 years, I think. I don't know how it come in. I think at the end of the day you just get slightly lax, don't you, in your husbandry, and you're paranoid as hell when you first start, and then you just get a little bit blasé, and those things are built to survive. You've got to admire them, they are pretty amazing. I mean, they're not horrendous, as you can, I mean, you've got to kind of hunt for them. They're not smothering everywhere, but you know, once they're in a tank this size, I need to take measures to kind of control them. Ideally, I'd like a copper band butterfly, but the reality of life is these tangs will smash it to pieces. Particularly, I don't know what one it is, but one of those yellow tangs is my original wild caught yellow tang, and I had him in my Red Sea 750 with a copper band butterfly, and he absolutely hated it, smashed it to pieces, wouldn't let it out the corner of the tank, so I had to put it in another tank. So I don't think he's going to get a good welcome in there. I don't know what it is with fish, but they sort of remember. It's like that convict tang. That convict tang was also in my Red Sea 750 with the yellow tang, and they fought constantly in there. So they were split up because I kept that convict tang out of this tank for well over a year because, well, basically he's just a dick. So I really ummed and ahed about whether I'll put him in here. It's only because I've had him so long. He's one of the first fish I've bought. He was tiny when I bought him. He's been through some wars. I nearly killed him when I put him through QT because I made a big mistake. I dropped him and he actually fell down those stairs. So he's quite hard, and I thought, I don't know what, I'll put you in, but he has been a dick. He just fights constantly, and I can't remember what one it is, but I think it's probably the original yellow tang I had in the 750. They just fight constantly. It's very hard to tell, but he's just got lumps all over him, scars, and yeah, he seems to be having a quiet day today actually. But the soul tang gives him some stick as well. I don't think he thinks much of him, but he don't seem to care. That's the weird thing about him. He just carries on being a dick, you know. He never sort of thinks, oh, I'll just calm down. But there you go. Generally, this is what my tangs do. They just do that all day, just picking at algae. They don't really get in each other's faces too often. I mean, the soul tang is obviously the top dog in the tank, but I guess he probably will stay that, but that Dussamari tang will get considerably bigger than him. But I don't really know what their temperament's like, to be honest. I don't know anyone else who's got one. So, right, I think that's enough of me waffling on about the tank. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so I will probably put some Aptasia eaten filefish in there in the next few months, just to see if it can keep the Aptasia at bay. I've had mixed success in the past with those. They seem to eat. The last one I ate everything but the Aptasia. So started at my Zoas, at my Acans, at my torches. I've watched it suck the tentacles off a torch like it was having a spaghetti bolognese. But it never touched the Aptasia, so they're pretty hit and miss really. But I haven't got a lot of choices because I'm out of options. I can't get Burgu in here. One, because the rash will probably eat them, like this guy here. I think actually this guy here might be taking some of my peppermint shrimps that I've put in as well. But because she's a stunner, she'll get away with it. Yeah, so that's it for the tank. Right, let me turn this back round. I will put the light on, I guess, because it's a bit dark. Take that lens off. And right, take my stay up. I need to carry it to the light, don't I? Right, let's just put that light back on. It might be a bit. Right, so yes, so I don't know how many people are aware that it was in the late, I think, well actually, when did it come out? So the first country to ban sunscreen because of its supposed toxicity on coral reefs was Palau in, I think it was the 1st of Jan 2020. And I know other countries have followed suit. Pretty sure Hawaii banned it. I think I remember not long ago that Thailand have also banned it. I don't actually know what the ban means. So in case you don't know, some sunscreens use its oxybenzone and octinate, it's some sort of benzone, as part of the UV screening. So the compounds can either be organic or inorganic. And they're saying I think it's about 10 compounds, but those two are been particularly highlighted. And so those countries have banned sunscreen that contain those chemicals because they're saying it's killing the reef. Now, the number of sunscreen, so I'm putting my foot up just to relax a bit. So the actual amount of sunscreen which is put into the seas yearly is a massive range. So it goes from 4,000 tonnes, 6,000 tonnes, or you can read other sources and it goes right up to 14,000 tonnes. So I guess, I don't know how they've arrived at those numbers. I guess it's not that difficult to measure how much a person would put on and then just look at passenger numbers globally and extrapolate from that. That will give you approximate figures. That's probably what they do, but anyway, so, and using that mechanism you would expect to have a big range. So 4,000 to 14,000, that is a massive range. So where it is at the moment is that those countries have banned those sunscreen products which contain those oxybenzoes basically, and they are being replaced with inorganic minerals which are titanium based and zinc based. So I've got the paper actually, and I can't remember. Oh, so, yeah, it's oxide. So it's titanium oxide and zinc oxide. So they've replaced the oxybenzone and the oxygenate with those compounds, and then they label those sunscreens reef friendly, I think is the word that I've seen. So I don't think there's any issue with the fact that if you think the amount of people that go to the beach, you don't necessarily have to be a scuba diving over a reef or scuba diving on the reef. You just need to be on the beach with your sunscreen, either paddling or, I mean, the sad thing is you don't even have to go into the water. If you think of all those resorts which have those showers on the beach and you get sand on you and you're smothered in, so you get a nice wash off, all of that water will run straight into the sea. So even if you physically have not entered the water, if you have that sunscreen on, the chances are it's going to get in the water. So those countries have banned it. So what this paper, so I read this paper, just reach over and get the title, as I've hidden it. So the title is The Toxic Effects of UV Filters from Sunscreen on Coral Reefs, Revisited Regulatory Aspects for Reef Safe Products. And this is done by a group of researchers, the Environmental Biochemistry Group, Institute of Chemistry and Biology of Marine Environment in Germany. So the university's in Germany. So the crux of it is, because I did this last time I went away, I particularly made a point of getting, I can't remember the name of it, I think it's Australian, and it was at least twice the price. It might have even been 3 times the price of my normal sunscreen, but it had, what it said was none of the 10 harmful products that have been named by these governments, but it had, I think it was actually zinc oxide. So at the time I thought, I'm pretty sure zinc's toxic in the aquatic environment as well, and it is. So what this paper is trying to say is that all of these rebranded or new sunscreens which are branded reef friendly, there's actually very little evidence to suggest that they are reef friendly. So the way we are at the moment is there is quite a lot of evidence to say that sunscreen is harmful to coral reefs, like the traditional oxybenzo ones. Now if you buy reef friendly sunscreen which has got titanium or zinc oxide in, which are being sold as reef friendly, there's no evidence to suggest that they're any friendlier than the other ones really, but for some reason the government have banned the original ones, and they seem quite happy for us to wear the other ones. but as far as I'm aware, there's not really been any proper, well, that's what basically what this paper is saying, is we need to have a global regulatory body and a testing method which is used universally, like they do for, you know, I mean, from my background, it would be what we use for insecticides. You know, there's a set protocol measures when you want to use a new insecticide. I mean, a classic example would be insecticide treated bed nets. There is a global protocol, which is kind of WHO recognised, World Health Organization, and you can go anywhere in the world and do a standardised test and publish your results. And that's what needs to be done basically for these sunscreen products, rather than just having companies go, oh, it's reef friendly, which is based on nothing basically, especially when they contain things like zinc oxide, because there's a whole wealth of data that says zinc oxide is not friendly in a aquatic environment, so it's a bit strange. So it's something to think about when you go away on your holiday. I'm sure a lot of people are already aware of that. There's probably a lot of people who are totally unaware of that, but this has been going on for, well, I think it really kind of stepped up in 2020 when certain countries started banning sunscreens. So it's worth looking into. I've given you no answers there really, have I? Because basically I've told you the ones they're telling us to use could be just as bad as the ones they're telling you not to use. I think the point is that they need to do the work and inform the public properly of what are the best ones to buy. Right, 36 minutes. This price myself, I must have to talk sometimes. Right, anything else I want to talk about? I don't think so. You'll probably work out from these videos that I don't know, I'm just lazy. Yeah, probably I'm just lazy. That I do very little editing with these. So I come out, I chat. Sometimes I run it through a filter to get rid of the background noise of the pump. But I think most of the last, I don't know, kind of think how much editing I've done. I think I might have edited the first couple quite heavily, and then after that I just went, oh, it takes ages. So this is what you're going to get. So if you don't like it, it's kind of off the cuff, it's not scripted. It's just the way I want to do it really, because it's just easy for me and I quite like it, to be honest. Oh yeah, I just ran out. I've got a whiteboard up there and I put things on it that piss me off basically, and what is on it at the moment, I've got no post on ICP. So I did an ICP test last week because I do dose blindly really, trace elements. I use Refresh, which is Brightwell's kind of all-in-one. I think it's 18 trace elements in there, and I also dose iodine, so I was dosing 0.5 ml a day. So I thought I better send off an ICP just to check that, you know, I've not got anything wayward in the results. So the iodine was actually high, which I mean, it wasn't like bad high, but it was on the higher end of what it should be. So it just tells me that I can adjust it. So I'm now dosing 0.2 ml. I was doing 0.5 ml a day, and now I'm doing 0.2 ml a day. So I've reduced it by over a half, so it should bring that right down into acceptable levels, hopefully. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I usually do fauna marrying is what I normally do, and this time, I don't know why, but my local LFS talks me into doing, is it Zelements? I think that's how you say it. Reef Zelements, which is based in the UK. I think it's in Peterborough, which is fine. You know, it's great. Works. So I've logged in, I've looked at the results, all good. What pisses me off is that when I buy an ICP test, I want the postage included. Right? Just add the price to put it in the post to the initial cost. Because I do not want to faff around having to buy stamps or go to the post office. I want to do my test. My post box is in the road I live in. I want to dip my files, whack them in, walk down the road, post it while I'm out with the dog, and I'm done. But instead, I've got to faff around getting the missus to buy me some stamps. I just don't understand it. Just do a prepaid envelope. It's just easy. You know how many vials are in the kit. It's not like you can't guess the weight, is it? So anyway, so that's my little rant. So I mean, it annoys me that much. I probably won't use them again. So I'll probably get. And it's only when I unpacked it and realised that I've got to buy stamps to before I can send it off. I realised that's why I use the Thorn and Marion one, because it comes with a prepaid envelope. So I'll go back to that, I'd imagine. So I'm sure they're not listening, but if you are, get some prepaid envelopes. Right, on that note, I am done. 40 minutes. Yeah. Right, I'll see you in the next one. What I'm going to talk about, no idea. Don't know. See you later.